Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Nilima. I would now like to just quickly introduce to you as Dr. Somani is already on here with us on screen. We have with us Dr. V.G. Somani, the Drugs Controller General, India Central Drug Standard Control Organization, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Now that we have all our dignitaries on screen, Mr. Sridhar, may I request you to please give a brief introduction to Dr. Somani as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Somani. Thank you for joining us today. Dr. Somani in India does not require an introduction at all. He is very, very popular man. Every person knows him. But our forum has got a lot of people from outside of India also dialing in. So I'll take a minute to introduce Dr. Somani to the benefit of people outside the country here today. Dr. Somani is a drugs controller in India under DHES, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. He holds an MPharm PhD in pharmaceutical sciences. He is working in CDSCO in drugs regulation for the last 22 years and has vast experience in the field of GMP, GCP, GRP, GDP, GLP, dossiers, etc. He has been involved in formulating various national regulatory guidelines on similar biologics and contributed to various WHO guidelines on drugs, devices, and vaccines related issues. Dr. Somani's focus areas are simplification regulation and access to quality medical products through good regulatory practices and strengthening of drug regulatory system. He is well-known speaker and trainer of various national and international WHO scientific bodies and was awarded merit scholarship fellowship by government since schooling days till the completion of his PhD. Dr. Somani's role in managing and supporting during the COVID pandemic was exceptional. We want to thank him and his entire CDSCO for the exceptional work in the pandemic, sir. Thank you once again for joining us here today, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now that we have both our dignitaries, Dr. Nilima Shirsagar and Dr. V.G. Somani, I would like to take this moment to do the official report release of MRCT. And before we do that, can we have the audio visual of the report, please? May I now request all our dignitaries to kindly hold up the report facing the camera for the official MRCT report release. Just hold on a moment. Yes, let's take this perfect picture moment and take a snapshot of it. Thank you so much, dignitaries. Thank you very much. With that, the MRCT report is officially released, and I would request Dr. V.G. Somani to kindly address the gathering.
Thank you, organizers. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, OPPI, for giving me this opportunity to join this your annual meeting and changing frontiers of healthcare research in a dynamic and digitized world. And specifically, when Dr. Nilima Shirsagar, well-known scientist and friend, guide, philosopher of all of us, has given the preamble, it becomes even more easier to talk about the MRCTs, which we usually call in our country as a global clinical trials. The drug development, I would just start with some of the things that drug development is becoming more complex with advancement of evolving scientific principles and enhanced understanding of pathophysiology of disease conditions, and development of newer medicines follow complex clinical development paths, as earlier explained. And many of these are targeting towards specific elements of disease pathology, depending on molecular biology and also sometimes very specific targets. And we can see that in every sphere, like oncology drugs for specific mutations, drugs for rare diseases, evolving gene therapies, etc. And during the current pandemic, one of the major transformation observed is the regulatory agility in both the decision making and scheduling the consultative meetings, whether you have the dossier assessments and the meetings of the experts. Quick learning attitude shown by the all stakeholders, including industry, government, regulator, and academia, has enabled the availability of many medicines for management of COVID-19 with quick turnaround time. Medicines includes vaccines, other kinds of immunobiologicals, small molecule therapeutic drugs, and also I would like to say that even diagnostics. And globally, there has been transformation in drug development to adapt quickly for the adaptive design to enable fast track launches. And one such development is how do we rely on data generated in multi-regional clinical trials without compromising on quality, safety, and compliance to the regulatory provisions. Most of the innovative drug molecules undergoes a robust multi-regional clinical trial process to include diverse set of patients, which gives specifically optimal data. And if there is no variability anticipated in the drug response or disease pathology, then multi-regional clinical trial data may become what we can say a robust tool to enable simultaneous access of drugs without the need of undergoing a similar set of additional local clinical trial, which helps in rationalizing cost, time, and resources. That is the most important advantage of this MRCTs. But while assessing these, that there are no major differences, the stakeholders, scientists, and regulators have a little bit of challenge because of the definitive factors like the differences in the local standard of care, ethnic differences, genetic differences. And in the past, clinical trials for the purpose of regulatory approvals of the drugs in various countries were conducted independently from those in, you can say, the countries like US, EU, because of concerns that ethnic differences among the population might affect drug responses, efficacy, and safety. I'm talking specifically from the perspective of the Asian and Indian region. In general, the strategy initiating development in one region, following up with the similar studies in the subsequent region, used to result in duplication of the studies and delayed development with late market access or the access to the patient in subsequent regions. This situation was actually seen earlier in various countries. And to increase the efficiency of the drug development and minimize the duplications of the things which may not be required, the E5 guidelines entitled Ethnic Differences in the Acceptability of the Foreign Clinical Trial Data was established by ICH of the technical requirements for pharmaceutical and followed by regulatory implementation in various countries including US, Japan, EU, and we also adopted in our regulations in the NDCT rule to a maximum extent. In 2014, the Pharmaceutical and Medical Devices Agency, PMDA, submitted to the ICH concept paper proposing new harmonized guidelines on general principle for planning, design, and etc. of MRCT. And this guidelines was prepared through consultative process. The need of our is, as Shirdhar has already explained, because I personally feel simplification is the most important. The regulatory compliances or the patient safety can be achieved if we make our guidelines and regulation on the in such a simple manner that even the layman can understand it. Of course, scientific people will understand it. The new drug approval processes should be logical and based on the scientific principle. There is a clear need to develop additional guidelines to cover the topics where there is a lack of clarity and to make the existing guidelines much more efficient. Further, there is a need to have what I can say, a lot of dynamism, robustness, and detailing of preclinical toxicology studies, clinical development, and post-marketing authorization studies, and how the digitalized technologies, artificial intelligence also can help in these regards, which we have utilized to a large extent during the COVID period, and there are many examples of that. Because during the COVID period, it was the lockdowns, the patients were not able to visit the sites, and uh, doctors were not able to see the patients, but still the clinical data evaluation was necessary. So in that cases, the digital technology helped to do that things. And MRCT is a good idea to start with. Theoretically, MRCT would be better option for data generation. However, this is not that simple, and several factors must be considered for success of MRCT. If good outcome is needed from MRCTs, we need to take care of regional differences, scientific and general ones, technical expertise, sometimes just like I told you, the standard of care and attitudes, resources, etc. If these differences are considered and they are managed with the local SOPs only instead of disturbing the entire MRCT protocols, MRCT can be a good approach. And for any MRCTs to succeed in any country or region, regulatory environment must be supportive. And for that, we in India have come out with the new drugs and clinical trial rules, which gives a lot of flexibilities. And we encourage people to start the early clinical development in our country, starting from early stages of enrollments of the patients and uh, starting phases, so that the early data generation can assure the early access to the global product, which can serve the need of the patients. With this, I cannot explain more about the advantages of MRCTs, and to encourage all stakeholders to do it with all zeal. And regulatory environment in India will always support it for early access to the better therapeutic options in our country. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.